keeping it in suspense. Not even on the screen when we first go live. Welcome to the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast, brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, and of course, sponsored by Morgan Trinkets. It's a Denver Bronco Friday night, man. It's a wild card edition, guys. I feel like we should have it all clapped up, and we should have like a million different people on the screen. But hey, it's all right, man. It's just me. It's just Trevor. We're hanging out on a Friday night, and just not me and Trevor. It's all of you guys out there as well, man. So glad to have you here on a Friday night. It's about to get a little crazy, about to get a little bit wild. Certainly seems like it's kind of getting a little crazy and wild in, Broncos country, up Mile High Land. But right now, we're going to get a little crazy, and I'm going to say hello to my good friend, as mentioned before, Mr. Trevor Salzman. How are we doing tonight, Trevor?
Doing great, Keith. Excited to be here and do another great, fantastic episode of the Denver Bronco Roundup. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in tonight as well, and let's have a fun show, guys. Because again, off season's around the corner. I mean, rumors are starting to heat up, and Broncos are meeting with quarterbacks. We should be hearing something about Russell Wilson here soon. So, looking forward to it, and looking forward to getting started here.
A week, 2 weeks. It's really tough to tell how, when we'll hear the news. Coaches letting things slip here from time to time, and I'm really thinking that beginning next week, Trevor, we're going to hear the official news that we'll no longer be hanging out with Russell Wilson. We'll no longer be hanging out. We'll probably have no more Let's Ride after this, I guess is the best way to put it. Let's Ride will be officially buried. I think that the news will be coming next week that we'll be moving on from Russell Wilson. March 10th, free agency really heats up so we need to get our ducks in a row, make sure that we're all in line. And one of those ducks happens to be Russell Wilson. There'll be a lot of other contracts that we're going to try to figure out. Of course, the cap helped us out a little bit there, so maybe there's more negotiating than releasing or trading than we maybe originally thought. But like you mentioned, one of those that we know and expect right off the bat is going to be a Russell Wilson departure, and we'll see what that means for the Broncos moving forward, and what that means for Russell Wilson moving forward too.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Keith, is the first domino to fall, you would think it's going to be Russell Wilson, but Mike Kliss put out a tweet today, and I shared it on my Facebook, so I'm going to just kind of paraphrase a little bit. He's basically saying he expects the Broncos to start cleaning their roster up next week, before free agency, so they can get underneath the cap. So it's Monday, March 11th is officially when free agency opens up. So that to me tells me that's going to be multiple different either people restructuring their contract or players getting moved. We're going to be hearing, I think, a lot over the next week or so as teams start getting prepared for free agency, because again, every team has to be underneath the salary cap before free agency starts. So the Broncos are going to have to find ways to do that. I expect that to be, and that might be some of our favorite players that might move off, and that might be, some veterans that we know on this roster that have big cap hits. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Sean Payton dials up here pretty soon. That's going to be their first kind of dial into free agency. I think it'll tell us a lot of the moves they make and the restructures they make. We'll really get our first taste of exactly where George Payton and Sean Payton are looking to improve and how much money they will have to improve this roster.
Yeah, it'll let us know what the 2024-2025 season will start to look like. Once those contracts start to come around, you restructure this guy. It's like, okay, that's not a place that we're going after in the draft now. We don't have to go find that guy in free agency. Oh, we released this guy. Does that mean that we need to be looking? Where are we going to look? Where are we going to fill that hole? We need to find that spot. It's all going to start to come about, man. It's right around the corner. Like, you've been hinting at it now for weeks now, it seems like, Trevor. It's like, man, Broncos country, it's about ready to break loose. It's about ready to fire up. It's about ready to get crazy. Combine's happening. All the conversations were happening with coaches and GMs, and boy, it's going to get wild. Like you said, everyone needs to be in compliance before that date. We all need to get in cap compliance, even if that's a post-June 1st cut. We need to get in compliance and figure out exactly where your rosters are at. And then I got to speaking of where we're at, man, I got to say hello and get into my get into the posse, man. We're the roundup. We got the posse. We got the chat. And guys, this is a wild card episode of the Denver Bronco Roundup. So if there's anything in particular you want to hear, we have an open agenda tonight. We had originally planned a little defensive end edge rusher type of episode. Decided no, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open it up. We're going to leave it up to you guys. It's a wild and crazy Friday night. It's all for you guys. And speaking of which, we got to say hello to Ernie Mays coming in here and saying, "Go Broncos country only." Hello, Keith. Hello, Mr. Ernie Mays. He's also coming in here, putting his vote in for no Rust Wilson. First time I think I saw Ernie Mays put that out there, I thought it might have been just a keyboard error, but it's been out there episode after episode, week after week. So his new nickname, Mr. Rust Wilson, never knocked off the rust coming in here to Denver, in his opinion, I guess. So Kenny's coming in here. Good evening, my familia. He's trying that Spanish that we were talking about on his episode. My brothers in the podcast world love the wild card theme tonight. I will bring it in a minute. Well, Kenny, you bring it all the time, man. I appreciate you bringing it here and being part of the chat as always. Pearl's coming in here and saying, "Hi, all." Hello, Pearl. Always fantastic to see you. Roundup royalty right there. And hey, owner of our sponsor, Morgan Trinkets. We'll talk about Morgan Trinkets here in just a little bit, guys. But you know, if you're getting a little bit bored to listen to my dull voice at any moment, you need to do a little surfing, head on over to Morgan Trinkets, check out what they've been posting, because they got some beautiful stuff. But don't leave now. We got more Michael Ronquillo coming in as well, saying good evening. Trevor and Keith got those huge origin blue hearts. Appreciate you so much. There's the other half of the Ronk royalty, king and queen right there, right, sitting right above the top, man. So that's always open. You know how kings and queens work, man. They rise and they fall. So not to say that you're ever going to fall off your pedestal, guys, but watch out for those ones who come for you. And we got Clayton coming in here as well, saying, hey guys, smash that like and share, and don't forget about the notification bell. Don't forget about YouTube. Don't forget about Facebook. Don't forget about Apple Podcasts, and don't forget about Spotify as well. So got lots going on. Kenny's coming in saying, "Oh, good evening to Miss Pearl," and we got this big chat going on the side. Everyone's saying hello to everybody. So I was just seeing if there's anything that we had in here really big that we needed to go. Hey, we know who this is right here. Let's go get our guy, baby. My guess is, and I'm trying to get caught up on some of these comments here real quick, but oh, that's Mr. Clayton. Let's go get our guy. So Clayton, I would ask this: who's our guy? And I'm going to ask. That's kind of what I alluded to, kind of in our chat beforehand. I know this is supposed to be a little open agenda, but Trevor, we've talked about it, and I know that you're big on maybe trading out of that 12th number overall pick and picking up more draft capital or draft picks. You know, possibility for more players, more darts at the dartboard, right? But that being said, there's been a lot of rumor, there's been a lot of talk that anything is possible. Anything is possible, including moving all the way up to the top. If that be the case, if you have your pick of the litter, if you can jump in at any spot in the draft between, to get into that top 3, to get in that top 4 where all these quarterbacks are supposed to go, who are you getting? And I guess if you really want to, you can say where you think you're going to get them at too.
Yeah, if I had my pick, to me, it's between Jaden Daniels and Drake May. Between those two guys that I really like.
Oh yeah, but you get your choice though, man. You get your choice.
Either way.
No,
I think either way, Jaden Daniels would be the guy that I would go after.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, are you? If not, you're pulling the 49ers. We'll just go move up to number 3, and whoever's there, we'll just take. That's all good.
No, but I mean, like Jaden Daniels, he just does a lot of things special, and I think he's not only athletic, he can throw in the pocket. I was watching more film on him last night, and as I continue to analyze, all these players in this draft, but he looks fantastic. He really. When we look at these NFL prospects, we have to look at their breakout years. When do they have that? Drake May and Jaden Daniels both have that. Caleb Williams, yes, he's been at the top. He hasn't broke out. Like Drake May 2 years ago was one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Jaden Daniels was one of the best college quarterbacks in college football this year. That's their upside to these guys. That's what they can do. That they hit their peak. Jaden Daniels hit his peak this last year. He not only his pocket presence is also great. He really knows how to read a pocket very well. He can make those throws as well. We haven't seen a quarterback this athletic that can make those throws in a long time, maybe ever. I mean, that's how special this
Oh,
kid is. That's how special this kid is. And well, we can talk about Lamar Jackson, but Lamar was basically run first quarterback. Jaden Daniels isn't just a run first guy. Now with Jaden Daniels, the only knock I have on him and the worry I have on him is that he needs to stop taking those big hits, because you have linebackers from 240 plus pounds, and they're going to come in and they're going to give it to you, and it's not going to. You have to protect yourself. You have to know when to slide. Lamar Jackson knows how to get down and to slide at the right time. That's why he's been so effective, and he's been healthier to do
yeah.
so. So that's my only knock on Jaden Daniels. He's very, very elite. I think he's got some elite traits about him. Caleb Williams kind of worries me with where he comes out. He kind of comes out a little too cocky, and it kind of comes off to this in this combine. The guy's been through a lot. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he is kind of coming off a little too cocky, and I think he knows that he's going number one. I do
Mm.
think he knows he's going number one. Drake May, Drake May is the guy that I think everybody's really over under evaluating, should say, not
Mm.
under evaluating. I think this is a guy that, again, analytically and film wise, 2 years ago was one of the best quarterbacks in college football. This would be a guy that, if Denver's going to has a chance to move up, would be a guy that they need to possibly take a look at. Or if he drops and past three, this is the guy I would take a look at. There's some hype that McCarthy might go to the top three now, which I don't believe that right now. There's just so much different hype right now that's coming out of the combine. It's really truly rumor season as is, and at its finest. So we really have to take whatever rumor we hear with a grain of salt, because again, it's not always true. This is the time when rumors spread, and it spreads like wildfire. Man, that
Wildfire.
was hard to get out. I am sorry, guys. It's been a Friday. It's been a Friday.
Yeah, to be quite honest, from what I understand, it's been more like a Monday for his Friday. Trevor's hanging in there and bringing it, and talking about these great quarterbacks that are possibly standing right in front of us. I'll be honest, I'm a Jaden Daniels guy. I like what he's been able to put together, and I'm not talking out my backside, because obviously he's a top 3 guy and he's been kind of up there. I do find it funny that there's been all the talk that Caleb Williams is the, foreseen number 1 overall. Drake May is supposedly falling, and there's been hardly any talk, it seems like, about Jaden Daniels in comparison. I will say there has been some talk, as Pearl's coming in here and saying thoughts on who the Broncos are interviewing at the combine and who they are not interviewing. Well, I'm not sure about who we might be alluding to as far as who they aren't, but I can tell you this. The Broncos have talked to 7, count it, 7 quarterbacks while down at the combine. You have 45 interviews in total that you can log up. That's 1/6 of their interviews towards one position. That's a huge allotment towards one position when you're talking about interviews. And they've been doing official interviews, they've been doing unofficial interviews, they've been taking guys out to dinner, they've had multiple interviews with some of these quarterbacks. They are leaving no stone unturned. So it doesn't matter. I saw some great footage today, just today. Bo Nix talking great about, or not Bo Nix, I'm sorry. Not Bo Nix. Your guy, Drake May, talking fantastic about the Denver Broncos. I saw Jaden Daniels talking fantastic about the Denver Broncos. I saw Spencer Rattler talking fantastic about the Denver Broncos. I saw Michael Pratt talking fantastic about the Denver Broncos. One guy who wasn't talking, I want to get your opinion on all of those guys, as well as this one. Marvin Harrison wasn't talking to anybody. Marvin Harrison Jr. So let's get into a little bit of that as well. But what do you think about those quarterbacks and those 7 quarterbacks that we've talked to? And then if you want to, the oddly missing Marvin Harrison Jr. when it came to his media day.
Yeah, that whole Marvin Harrison Jr. thing was really odd, and there's not a good look for him. He needs to. Yeah, he is the number one wide receiver in this class, and there's a pretty good gap between him and Neighbors and Odunze. But man, you really got to. I mean, it takes talent, to be talented in college football and to be at the combine where they're at. I just sometimes I kind of worry about some of these guys taking advantage of that too much.
Mm,
Be yourself. Now, I don't want to sit here and speculate on what went wrong. I didn't hear the reports, of why he missed. There might be speculation, rumors out there.
yeah.
Who knows? But it's just not a good look for him. And I wonder if the Cardinals aren't going to pass on him because of that. Because this is a
Mm,
very talented wide receiver class. It really is. So maybe there's some teams that pass on him because of that, and he drops on their board. I would not be surprised. That's just got to be professional, like Graham says here in the comments. You got to be professional, and it's something that doesn't look good. But as far as the quarterbacks go, I you know I don't take too much away from the interviews when what they say and when they when the media gets a chance to talk to them
hmm
because they're never going to come out and like bash an organization or bash a coach or anything. They're going to be positive always, and I would love to be a fly on the wall in the interview room, actual interview room.
Yeah.
I don't really think that them talking to the media does a ton for me. Like there's a couple quarterbacks that will talk about, oh, Sean Payton, they'll praise Sean Payton. Oh, yeah, he's a great head coach and great offensive mind. And there's some players that just won't talk much about it at all. Bo Nix was interesting that, when he had his interview today with the media that he was talking, he was saying that, he's like, well, yeah, we talked about stuff, but, I don't want to get in too much into what the interview was about. So it tells me like, what's coming on here. He's just talking about himself more or less to
Mm,
everybody else, not really talking about how the interviews went, which I don't sit here and expect him to talk, be an open book about how the interview went. But, you know, very interesting quarterback class. A lot of rumors coming out there. I think Bo Nix fits Sean Payton's system probably the best out of all these quarterbacks, in my opinion. And he's one of the best realistic. Um, you know, the quarterback, in my opinion, that's actually going to be there at 12 when they
mm.
pick. The question is, do they love Bo Nix enough to take him at 12, or would you move back for him? I don't know. I don't know that.
Oh.
I don't know that because I think a team may take him in the first round towards the back end. I would not be surprised. But I think Bo Nix is the guy that can come in right away, and he's a great processor. We talk about processing a lot. Sean Payton talks about that a lot, and Bo Nix mentioned that a lot in his interview today with the media. He talked about how he's such a great processor. And that stuck out to me in his interview, let alone because that's what Sean Payton's looking for, a good processor, sees the field well. And Bo Nix has just been through a ton throughout his career, and some of these other guys just haven't been through that. That's why I'm higher on Bo Nix than others are. But Keith, that would be really interesting to hear what you have to say about some of these quarterbacks' answers and what stood out to you of all the quarterbacks. What stood out to you the most?
You know, Spencer Rattler was one that stood out. Now, take it like you said, smoke signals. They're not going to go out there and they're going to not going to come out in their interview and say, "I hate that organization and I was terrible in my interview." That's never going to come out of the lips of any of these prospects. But Spencer Rattler, a later round pick, a guy that I remember from QB1, and now to see this guy, well, this man now compared to the kid he was, and the steps that I think he's taken to grow, it could be a very interesting dynamic. He talked about how much he obviously is enamored with the Sean Payton, but also how much Sean Payton was enamored with some of his tape as well. So I also the multiple interviews that Pratt has had with the Denver Broncos is also quite interesting. Now, we've seen things like this before where there's smoke signals that end up being nothing. For instance, the visit that we brought in Isaiah Pacheco into, the Mile High City and inside the walls of Broncos country, only to see him get passed up and go to the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously as well. So, those were a couple of interesting ones to me. Bo Nix will be interesting. I think I just have this feeling. I have this feeling that Broncos country excuse me, that we're moving up, that we're not going to stay where we're at, and we're going to find a way to get our guy. Whether it's we don't want to have that quarterback that has the line drawn through it anymore, whether it be the urgency of a Sean Payton to get his quarterback, get him assimilated into his offense, and get winning. We want to do that as quickly as possible. If you can do that in year 2, great. Year 3 is kind of expected. Year 1 is a CJ Stroud type of scenario that everyone hopes for, but it's kind of unlikely, right? It's year 2 and year 1, and let's face it, it's time to get moving. Broncos country needs some winning time, and I think I just have this feeling that we're going after. I think that's the reason that we're looking at 7 quarterbacks. We're leaving no stone unturned, and we're looking at and talking with Caleb Williams. I mean, why are you spending your time talking to Caleb Williams? It's not like you think he's going to fall, to number 9 and you're going to trade up 3 spots to get Caleb Williams. That's just not in the book of scenarios. I do want to hit just really quick our good friend Scoops, part of the K&K roster of amazing hosts over there, has What's the Scoop, but he's coming in here, TGIF, referencing a comment I said earlier. He said, "Don't say that, Keith. Your voice and the Denver Bronco dynamic duo with Trevor is exactly what all of us need on a Friday night." Signed, the conductor of Jaden Daniels hype train. I appreciate it, man, because I'm a big Jaden Daniels hype train as well. You know that as well, Scoop. So I appreciate you coming in here with the support. Trying to get caught up on some of these comments as well. Trying to get caught up on Graham, but I don't know what the bird thing is, so I'll have to get caught up on that one. I apologize. We're moving down and accumulating picks. This is something that you've talked about, Trevor. I know that we just got done talking about our wish list, a Jaden Daniels for me, maybe a Drake May for you. But your wish and your thought is that we move back. Now, the one thing that I always ask for and want, and I don't know if you have this on the tip of your tongue, there's a wild card episode. Who are we trading with? Why are they moving up to the position of number 12? And who are we passing on? That's the thing that always gets me. 12 is kind of in that in-betweenish. We're almost, I mean, let's face it, there's only 32 teams in the league. 16 is sitting right in the middle. We're closer to 16 than we are to 1. We're dang near in the middle of the draft pack. So who is so great that someone wants to come up and take our pick, and who are we okay with saying that's all right? We don't need that player on our roster. We're set.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, and this is the thing that sticks out to me about the Broncos interviews. Other than quarterback, non-quarterback, there's a lot of players that are not in the top 10 that are on their interview list right now. As of right now, Terron Arnold and Jared Verse would be the 2 guys that would be in play there at 12. But again, other than quarterback, and I guess Brock Bowers. Other than that, there's really not a lot of guys that you're interviewing that are going to be there at 12. A lot of the guys that you're interviewing you could be moving back for, or you could be getting more picks for, and that's what I kind of think this team is kind of in that where they may move up for a quarterback if they fall in love with one. You don't fall in love with a quarterback, believe me, you don't need to take one in this draft class. You don't have to take a quarterback this draft class. I keep telling people that you don't have to, but what they have to do is they have to continue to get better. Keith, when was the last time the Broncos traded back in the first round of the draft? I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but they haven't. It's been a long time since this team has traded back in the draft. So, and every team has to go through this. Every team has to go through this process where they have to trade back to get more picks so they can make their roster better in general. The Broncos have not done that in a long, long time.
But this is the one thing that I'm concerned about, right? Because for all intents and purposes, we're moving on from Russell Wilson, right? We need a solution of some sort of quarterback. Everyone's saying that 2025 class is not that great. Here you are at number 12 with maybe the opportunity to move up in one of the better quarterback classes where we're talking, heck, possibility 4 quarterbacks taken in a row. Everyone's saying 3 for sure. You know what I mean? And risers of JJ McCarthy and who knows, yeah, got Sean Payton out there saying, I don't care. I'm gonna what the evaluators say, I'll take my guy where I feel he's valued. So who knows? For all we know, Pratt's his pick at number 12. But that being said, I mean, that's my only concern is when do you get back and what's there when you get there?
Yeah, that's a concern, but who says this is the best quarterback class? That's the
Mm,
thing is like we want to speculate on that, but we don't know, and I don't love this saying of oh well next year's class is going to be weak, guys. We're a year away from evaluating next year's quarterback class. There's still a lot of time before we get to see what those quarterbacks look like. A year ago, we were not talking about Jaden Daniels being a top two pick in the NFL draft. We were not talking about it. These guys take time to break out. When they break out, especially quarterbacks, they're going to be top. They're going to be top of the class, and they're going to be wanted. That's the thing is I don't know that every team is going to be in love with these quarterbacks this year as far as top of the draft. Some teams may want to move back and see what next year's class looks like because you don't always if you're I mean, it just depends on if you're in love with the guy or not. It really does. If you're in love with the guy, I would not mind the Broncos picking quarterback at 12 if they are in love with him. If you're Sean Payton, your clock starts to immediately, and it starts immediately after Russell Wilson's release, but it definitely starts as soon as you pick that quarterback at 12. If that's what you do, because you don't have any picks for a long time till the third round. You have two
hmm
picks in the top 100. That hurts right now. That hurts this franchise because they're not just a quarterback away. So yeah, if you love a guy, do what you got to do to get him. I don't love trading up for a guy, and I don't think top three is realistic. I think maybe maybe at 6 with the Giants, maybe at 7, but I don't think top three is something that is going to be realistic. George Payton has already kind of said that it's not realistic to get in the top three. He said the number one overall pick, but round pick 2, pick 3 are not going to be cheap, and you're going to have to
Nope.
likely going to have to probably give up. Sertan is probably going to have to be at least be brought up in discussions, and
Yep.
I just that's what I worry about. And I just this team needs to take a step back, in my opinion. If you don't believe there's a quarterback that's there and there's an elite prospect that's there, blue chip prospect that's there, you got to move back. I think you got to move back in many picks you can. Because if not, you might be trading some of these veterans like Judy Bowles, some of these other guys
hmm
to get more picks.
Yep, it's true. It's true. I keep bringing this up. This is something I looked up. I forget the number of years. I want to say 7 years that Deion Sanders played for the Atlanta Falcons, and in 7 years with the Atlanta Falcons, how many Super Bowls?
Yeah, I mean,
And is he considered to be one of the best ever to do it at that position? It's sometimes the value isn't worth it if you don't have the other pieces around it. And as much as it hurts to let go of a Deion Sanders or a PS2, if it's for the betterment of what really makes a team an elite team, which is really a quarterback, it might be something that we're looking at. I just want to prepare you, Broncos country.
but
I'm not saying I 100% advocate for it, but I'm not taking it out of the realm of possibilities.
does it make it better? Does it make your team better? Look at the Carolina Panthers last year. I mean, they just showed right there when they have no talent around. You trade Sertan away.
hmm
That's another elite corner, and that you have that you're just moved on. Yeah, I know they're not winning with Sertan, but he's young enough that they can still win with him. He's what 23 years old. I mean, this
hmm
guy's he's not 27, 28. If he's older, it's a different. We're talking about a different story here. But he's 23 years old. You don't just get rid of blue chip uh, players.
Yep.
Elite players in your team. Miners and Sertan, two guys this team should be building around. That's what those are two guys that you keep in the building. You're locking up long term, and those are two guys, one on each side of the football that you get a chance to build around. Now it seems a little funny, a corner and a guard that you're building around. Those guys are your Pro Bowlers. Those are your Pro Bowlers. You're giving it give that away for a maybe quarterback. If Sean Payton is his quarterback guru, why can't he get something out of something on the free agency market? Why can't he go get something in the draft? Maybe later on in the
Hmm.
draft. Why does he have to get the top guy all the time? Because it seems like
Hmm.
he's aggressive, but this is why I say I'm concerned about Sean Payton, the general manager. Sometimes he's too aggressive. AKA last year in free agency. This team's been over $200 million in free agency. And then look now what they're at now. They're having to get underneath the cap with it.
Yeah.
And you might be moving off from Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right. All right. I get it. I get it. You don't like that GM hat that Sean Payton has, yeah. Speaking of which, I want to bring up a couple of comments from Graham jumping in here. Appreciate Graham. Fantastic supporter, especially on Friday nights. Seems like I see a ton of you, man. I appreciate you jumping in here and always being a part of the program and coming in on YouTube as well. But we were talking a little bit about earlier about George Payton saying we can't be getting up to the top of the draft. And he's saying, like a lot of things, maybe that could be smoke too. What are your thoughts about George Payton just putting up a smoke show? Because he's been saying it from the very beginning. Hey, we can't do it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to be players. We can't get up in the draft. Can't be in free agency. Are we gonna see that flip over, or is it? Do you think he's true to his word? Do you think he's putting fairly truthful information out there for Broncos country?
I think there's no secret around the NFL that George Payton loves picks, and that's where it comes from. So I think he's telling the
Mm,
truth on that. Problem is George Payton doesn't just have the final call himself. He's also got Sean Payton, a guy that loves to be aggressive. So if they can, my hope is they can balance each other out. But if we've seen from last year's draft, Sean Payton moved up twice, and what did it do?
yeah.
The rookies did not see the field nowhere near enough. So if you're moving up, those guys better start seeing the field. Those guys didn't see the field last year. I just have concern again. Your head coach being the general manager of this team, having final say. If and or he does have final say, it's an issue for me because I think you need to have a GM to keep him in check. And I don't know if George Payton has the power to do that. Yeah, he's a
Mm,
great scout, and I think he's a great talent evaluator, but he may not get final call what's going to happen anyways. So if they can work together and they can come up with a decision
mm,
together on something, that's a different story. But I don't know that they're always were able to do that. Last year's draft shows me something different. That Sean Payton's the guy that's making the calls on
mm,
draft night. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about that pretty big time because you can't reach for you can't. Okay, I'll say this: I'm not concerned about Sean Payton evaluating quarterbacks as much. I'm concerned about the other moves that he makes to get other players in the building. How he
mm,
does that. He seems to overpay for guys as well in free agency. Now he's not going to do that this year. Taysom Hill, look at Taysom Hill's contract, and you can sit here and tell me that he doesn't overpay players. He overpays players, and he overpays to get players in the draft. And which I
What?
understand if he wants them, but
Taysom Hill's one of the cheapest quarterbacks out on the market. What are you talking
yeah,
about? I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. I mean, if you want
I'm
Taysom
just
Hill cheap, you
kidding.
just tell us. No, but
Um,
I mean, I understand being aggressive, but you got to be responsible. You
mhm,
got to do it responsible. That's still my only thing. I'm not,
yeah.
you know, against trading up. Just do it responsibly. Don't be giving up next year's second round pick again to trade up. In the draft. It's just you got to do it responsibly. That's my only thing about it.
You're all about that second round pick, man. But I'm telling you what, not coming in second to anybody. Martin always coming in here as well on Friday nights, man. Coming in on YouTube. Appreciate you, Martin. Appreciate you being part of the conversation. I think he has a fantastic question, man. Is this a great quarterback class, or is this just a lot of teams who need a quarterback? Man, it doesn't matter if we're talking about retirements lately from like Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger, or just the churn. Heck, at one point we used to be talking about Joe Flacco in Baltimore, and we used to be talking about Russell Wilson over there in Seattle, and all of this churn that ends up happening throughout the league. It does seem like all of a sudden we are in like a deficit like we hadn't seen before. Is this a place where we've made more out of these quarterbacks than they are? In IE, I heard a lot of Caleb Williams being generational, especially middle of his season. Is this a generational quarterback, or are we just making these guys out to be more than who they are? What do you think? How would you rank this top three? Are they truly top of the crop, or do you think or top of the crop or a little bit of crap? I guess is the best way to put it. Well, what's your thoughts
Yeah,
on this, Trevor?
yeah, and I think it's fair to to assume, that some of these quarterbacks are just not going to pan out, but also these guys don't pan out not just because of themselves, but because of the teams they go to.
Mm,
So for me, it's just I think Caleb Williams has generational traits. Is he generational overall? I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say he's the next Patrick Mahomes. He's got skill sets of Patrick Mahomes and his mobility in the pocket, and he's got elite pocket presence. He does. We haven't seen it since Mahomes. Doesn't mean that he is Mahomes. He's still got a lot. I think he's got to mature up a little bit. Depends on what Chicago will throw at him. He needs to grow up in the room, my opinion. Jane Daniels, uh, yeah, I think Jaden Daniels to me is a guy that I think will. I don't think he's going to have a ton of trouble in the NFL right off the bat, and I think especially if he lands with the Commanders, that team seems pretty well put together, and it seems like they're going to be pretty aggressive to make that team better. Really love what that team's doing in the offseason with Dan Quinn. I've been a big advocate for Dan Quinn and Adam Peters as well, former executive for the Denver Broncos as well, part of that Super Bowl team, so Super Bowl 50 team. But those guys, Jaden Daniels to me is top of the list probably. I'm higher on Drake May than others are because he was one of the best quarterbacks 2 years ago in the class.
mhm.
I do think there's some concern with him. He's got to get his feet better. Yes, I understand that, but I think him and Caleb Williams are kind of, you know, be kind of two
One
B
A, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B.
2A, 2B. That's what I would say. I think Jane Daniels is higher than Caleb Williams and Drake May right now, but those Drake May and Caleb Williams are right behind him, in my opinion, just because those guys got bigger question marks. In my opinion, those guys have been better quarterbacks longer, but they've not reached the upside that Jane Daniels had this last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm high on Jaden Daniels, man. I think he can rise up this board. I am also, again, is it smoke? Is there fire? A lot of talk about the Chicago Bears maybe staying now with Justin Fields. Again, there's just so much out there, guys, and I think it's gonna be pretty interesting. I wanted to get to this one though too. You kind of talked about, this class of quarterbacks. I kind of mentioned next year's, and man, I can't believe we're kind of rolling through the time here as well. I need to get to a few other things, but get to that next. Michael Ronquillo saying next year's quarterback class in 2025 NFL draft could be one of the worst classes of QBs. At least that's the speculation. And I heard this as well. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this, and then I'll hit my thing that I need to hit after this. JJ McCarthy. Right now, people are saying, hey, he could be rising up. He could be the number 4 quarterback. He could be a top 10 quarterback. If JJ McCarthy came out next year, would he be the number 1 overall prospect?
Yeah, that's something that I've talked about even when McCarthy came before he declared for the draft. Was I think he needed to stay at school another year. This is why I do not think that he's a top 10 pick in this class. Dane Brugler, Keith, I don't know if you've seen this, but he actually thinks McCarthy is a second round grade. He has second round grades on
I
McCarthy,
saw that. Yeah.
and that's to me, and that's where I kind of had him. I had him late first round, early second round. He's just so raw, and you just don't know what you're going to get with him. He's so hard to evaluate.
Mm.
Phil Yates of ESPN, him and Mel Kiper did a show a couple days back this week, and they talked about evaluating JJ McCarthy. They said there's a lot of he's the biggest unknown of this class, and
Yeah.
that's absolutely true. I just for the Denver Broncos' sake, I don't want that for this team. I don't want them. I want an unknown. I want you there that your quarterback to be known. Like I want him. Like you better know this is your next franchise quarterback if you're going to take him.
Mhm.
Especially if you take him at 12 or you move up for him. But yeah, I mean, next year's quarterback class. To answer your question, Michael, I think it's just way too early to evaluate that. Shador Sanders is going to be next year's class. Him, let alone, he will be better than he was this past year. He has a better offensive line. He just has an overall better team around him. He will be a better quarterback than he was this last year. So to me, and then Ewers from Texas, I think will be better as well. These quarterbacks, we always like, oh, this might be a weak quarterback class. These guys seem to emerge though when we say that, and there will be one or two guys that always emerge in every draft class. It's just how you evaluate them, and are they realistic to be your next franchise quarterback? That's the question of all these quarterbacks in this class. It's a deep quarterback class. I don't know how elite it is because these
Mm.
guys have not played it down in the NFL. They've played in colleges, they played in different systems, but this is a very deep quarterback class. Yes, next year's quarterback class might not be very deep, but there's to be one or two guys that will emerge in next year's quarterback class.
The one thing that I will say would lean me more towards a Drake May, more towards a Bo Nix, and the one thing that makes me nervous about this quarterback class is I see a lot of off script, and that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a Caleb Williams, doesn't matter if it's a Jaden Daniels, even though he's kind of taken himself away from it. Spencer Rattler was known for being that type of quarterback. Now he's trying to put himself in a better position of being a pocket quarterback, but still the tendencies are there. So I see a lot of that, and whether that fits a system, whether that fits an NFL offense, um, it remains to be seen. Like you said, we haven't seen a snap from any one of these guys in the NFL, and that's when the rubber hits the road. That's when the talent levels ratchet up one more level. You think it was tough playing for some of these top schools in college? It just got one more level higher. We're on boss mode now, right? So, wanted to get to this one comment. This is from Pearl. Pearl's coming in saying Williams reminds me of Judy in personality. Not good, but I'll tell you what is good, guys. Morgan Trinkets. Morgan Trinkets is our fantastic sponsor. Started in 1990 with 33 years experience and have the most beautiful. I mean, I just Pearl just put up a post the other day of some Southwest jewelry and necklace and earring set. Beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful. Southwest jewelry and pottery, as well as estate gold at wholesale prices. Morgan Trinkets, it's your go-to guys and gals. So, silver starting at $10, going up to $2,000, all sterling silver. Gold, all 10, 14, 18 karat true real gold. Um, Free shipping on any order over $50, guys, and you're going to find them over on Facebook, Morgan Trinkets. That's how they do all of their interactions. They do have a couple of shows coming up, so head on over to Morgan Trinkets on Facebook because I don't have it all written down. So I'll get that on our next episode. But multiple shows coming out. Head on over to Morgan Trinkets over on their Facebook page today. By the way, you can buy on Facebook using PayPal. So check out Morgan Trinkets today. Like I said, not good. It might be not good to have a bad attitude like Jerry Judy might have from time to time, but what is good, Morgan Trinkets. Check them out, man. I don't know if you've checked out their page, Trevor, man, but they got some gorgeous, beautiful stuff, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. Pearl's got some great stuff over there. I really appreciate her sponsoring the show. Pearl, you are our favorite. You are that right there. The Roundup royalty with everybody else, and you guys are absolutely amazing. And you guys are all our favorites. Honestly, you guys just make this show, and honestly, this show wouldn't be possible without you guys. So really, we really truly appreciate you guys, and truly very sorry for us not getting our edge and defensive line lists out again, guys. We'll get to that here next week as well, so we'll be able to hit that again. But again, I hope you guys are having a fun show so far. Again, we love talking about this. There's so much to talk about with what our list's going through as well. So
Mm.
it's great to be able to do a podcast and we can just talk about the combine and everything going on because these next few weeks, guys, news is going to start popping and it's it's very interesting and it's going to be great to talk about and can't wait to talk about it with all you guys.
Yeah, I got a new name coming in. Got Carl coming in over on Facebook. And just a quick reminder, guys, if you're over there and you want your name and your profile picture to show up, StreamYard.com/Facebook, and it'll let it right through. But I'm kind of looking off to the side. And Carl comes in and says, if it's not a QB at 12, should they trade back and get more picks and uh, and perhaps draft? And he leaves me hanging there and leaves me hanging. So that being said, if you are trading back, and not making QB your priority, we've talked about maybe in that 20ish range is a great place to maybe land and have someone pull up, step up and take that 12 spot. If you're landing in those 20s, is there a particular position that you think you're going to get good value at, Trevor, in those mid 20s?
I would still examine where Bo Nix is at that point in time if you move
Okay.
back because I think Bo Nix again I think he fits Sean Payton's system really well. I would see where he's at if he's taken off the board. You're talking about you needing to fix the run defense a little bit. You're talking about you need to get after the quarterback a little bit. Maybe there's a defensive end that you like there. Hard there. Maybe a cornerback slips to you as well. There's some
Yes.
talented wide receivers. There's some talented wide receivers towards the back end of the first round as well. So keep an eye on that one. Some
Mm.
guys are actually starting to move up. I think, but like a Troy Franklin's going to be there probably around that range. I've done some more mock drafts as we get closer. I'll definitely be able to be dialed in on more of those guys as I get updated information, analytics, and everything like that comes in.
Yeah.
But though it's good, it just depends on best player available. I think at that point in time, you address best player available where you pick at. But if they're
Hmm.
moving back, then there's got to be a second option that they're targeting. You're not just trading back and blindly trading back and saying let the chips may fall where they fall. You're probably
Yeah.
targeting a second guy as well, and maybe that's why they move back is because they're targeting a guy back into the first round instead of taking him at 12. Why not move back to get him and get more picks?
Yeah. Just kind of leaning into that, I would say, positions that are usually deep and you can get great talent in the end of the first round, or places like cornerback, places like wide receiver, like you already mentioned as well, Trevor. Or you can look at it from the opposite perspective, places where you're probably going to get the top end of the talent, because they're usually more of a day two type of pick. And I would say, your linebacker at that point, your safeties at that point, those places that you usually don't see, guys coming up into the first round, certainly not in the top end of the first round when you talk about those type of positions anymore. So, picking that up later in the first round and getting one of the top guys at one of those two positions could also be an option. But I think there's value to be seen on either end, whether it be, like I said, those guys that we think they're going to be, like you said, wide receiver. What a fantastic draft class that we have in wide receiver. By the way, a little report coming out on that cornerback side of things. Kool-Aid McKintry coming out with a fracture in his foot that came through medicals because of that. Not doing a whole lot as far as testing. Will do some at his pro day. Expects to get that fixed and then obviously be ready to go for any NFL team come training camp is the expectation. Another one that I thought was kind of interesting along those lines. Speaking of guys and interesting storylines, want to get your thoughts on Caleb Williams saying, "No, you don't get my medicals at the combine. You can maybe get that down the line." I'm thinking maybe pro day.
Yeah, that to me just it makes you wonder if he thinks he's not very confident or hasn't been getting some information he's going to go number one. To me, so the Bears are probably a team that will get that eventually. He's got to be confident where he's going. I don't like that. Again, it's just the whole you're kind of taking advantage of where you're at the combine. Just give them their medicals. What are you hiding? Type situation. I don't understand it. I mean, you want to be a leader out there. You want to show leadership
Mm,
from the get go, and that's just, to me just doesn't show accountability. If there's something wrong, these teams were going to find it eventually. I mean, you're not going to be able to hide it forever. So for me, yeah, it's difficult. I wish some of these top prospects wouldn't take advantage of what the stage they have. But I think that he might think he's just going to go number one regardless. It doesn't really matter. Also, Julian McKinstry, that's a big one. That injury today, because
mm,
he's a guy that's projected to probably go in the teens to early 20s. Now he
yeah,
might be dropping to the second round. That's
correct.
huge. That's huge. And I got another guy that was his teammate Terry Arnold's a guy that the Broncos are interviewed as well. So it might be a corner, might be a position this team's going to look at. Although I do think Riley Moss will probably get cornerback two, get reps at cornerback two. I could see that, but I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Cody McKinstry is a guy that falls. And maybe if the chips fall where they may fall and Denver trades back, maybe this is a guy they can get him, or this is a guy they can go get. And I'm really high on him. I think that his upside is still unknown. We don't know where it's at, but very athletic corner. Really loved him. I was debating for the longest time if I liked him over Terry Arnold, but Arnold
Mm,
was just a better player and put up better numbers in college.
yeah. Pearl's coming in. She's saying that it really bugs her about Williams not doing the medicals. It does me too. I mean, this is the preparation, the time. I think you talked to you mentioned something that was, I think, really big there, Trevor. The leadership. I heard an interview from one of these players, and they're like, "Hey, man, it's just really good to get around all these fellow at this time as the position running backs, get around all these running backs, put faces to names, look at everyone's highlights, and I think you have an opportunity to really show that you're a leader, not only, when you get those opportunities to interview with the teams, but among your peers, right? And to go out there, I think back to Malik Willis, right? Going down to the combine and the unbeknownst to him footage coming out of him helping out a homeless person outside of the combine facilities. And that, in my opinion, took Malik Willis rocketing up the draft boards just because of something like that. The leadership, the type of man he was, is what rocketed him up. Williams doing this does not make me feel good about him or the person that he is or the fingernail polish that he wears or anything like that. So when we're talking about that elite talent, that generational talent that we're talking about, it really, I have a hard time tying it to a guy like Caleb Williams just because of things like this. It doesn't seem like we're putting our best foot forward at every step of the along the way. So, Kenny Kirkpatrick coming in and said, Caleb Williams is a joke. He doesn't want to go to the Bears, so he's throwing a smokescreen. And I think there's something to be said about that. I think there is definitely something to be said about that. Michael Ronquillo coming in and saying, cornerback Nate Wiggins had the fastest 40-yard dash. Check this out, man, at a 4.28 and left the combine with a hip flexor injury after his 40-yard dash. Oh, my goodness. Oh my, all the work, right? All the work that you're putting in. And these guys really do stress their bodies. I also saw that, for instance, a Jared Verse that came in dropped a ton of weight to come into the combine. Let's make sure he ran a great 40 time. Well, unfortunately, Jared Verse came in with one of the worst 40 times for his position. So he drops all the weight. He runs a bad 40 time. And now, from a body perspective, from a weight perspective, from a measurements perspective, does he fit the mold that everyone wanted? Now he's not got the 40 time and he doesn't have the weight. So now he has no excuses. And there's a guy that, if you want to put anything into the combine, and if teams do put in anything into the combine, maybe he does end up slipping a spot or two. A Kool-Aid McKinstry is one thing, but when you're just putting up bad stats, hopefully the tape tells you most of it. Sometimes you can be influenced by what happens at the combine, though, too.
Yeah, it's tough. These injuries are also really tough. I really feel for these guys that are getting injured right now. They're few months, a month and a half away from the draft, and you're dealing with this now, and now your draft stock's gonna plummet, especially if it's something serious. So I feel for a lot of those guys, and really hope that they're able to recover soon. But those, yeah, it's I don't know. Some of these guys just also didn't really look too great to me. Again, Jared Verse, he's a guy that the Broncos interviewed. To me, he didn't look great when I seen him at the combine. He
Mm.
works his tail off, no doubt about it, but just didn't overall look great in my opinion. I actually like Dallas Turner, the edge, out of
Yeah.
Alabama, better. He looked really great out there. That would be a guy that if he falls to 12, if you're Denver, you're sitting there considering that guy. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Jared Verse to me just doesn't do enough. I think he's fine, but I don't think is he ever going to be that elite talent that you're looking
Mm.
for? Probably not. I'd probably trade back if you have pick between Verse and trading back, and you're not going to take a quarterback there at 12.
Yeah.
I'd probably move back. But interesting that they had Verse on the list. I would have Dallas Turner there. Maybe Leao to Latu as well. I think I have Latu
Yeah.
better than over Verse, and I thought he tested better than Verse as well.
Feel like Verse and Braylon Trice are maybe a better comparison than Verse being compared with these top end guys at the top of the draft, especially now that we're starting to see some of these combine numbers come out. Kenny's coming in though. I love this. Tavondre Sweatwade in at 366 pounds and he ran a 5.28. Imagine that guy running 5 seconds on the 40-yard dash. What I would have a hard time imagining what Kenny. I, I always thought I was fairly fast. I was not a fast track guy, and I remember I worked like crazy to get a 4.99. Now the crazy thing is this 366-pound beast is chasing me down, nipping at my heels, and probably catching me. That's what's scary, man, because I was weighing in at about a buck 60 at the time. So yeah, he's got about 200 pounds on me and still motoring, buddy. So, like you said, that is beyond scary. Um, this is very true. Also, a bad combine does not always break a
Yeah.
player, and I agree with that 100%. You can't put everything into the underwear Olympics. You got to put in what these guys have put in on tape. Um, really, really, these what we've been talking about for the majority of this episode, Trevor. I think the interviews, the sit downs, the dinners, those are just as important as anything else that happens at the combine. Yeah, it's nice to see the measurables and see how big the arms are and what the actual weight is because we all know the college football programs aren't always exact. So yeah, it's nice to see all those kind of play out and pan out. But I think it's really about the conversations that happen down there, and there's a lot of conversations that happen down there. Trevor, we're almost up and about out of here, but give me your thoughts on that, and then I think I'll hit the comments, hit the posse, see if there's anything else burning in here, and start wrapping it up.
Yeah, and I agree with you guys' statement on that one. I don't think that the combine makes or breaks players, but again, when injuries happen, it does unfortunately break players. I think that plummets them down the draft board, especially if there's serious injuries. But when it comes to poor performance at the combine, I don't think it does really hurt their overall stock. But I mean, you would like them to test out well, means they're taking care of their bodies throughout the offseason and everything, and they're getting in shape and ready to go. It does, I think, mean something to other teams more than others. I will say that. Yeah, I do think that other teams do fall in love with the measurements a little bit. Maybe do fall in love with quarterbacks probably when they throw out the combine than others. I would not do that. I would go more tape wise, analytics wise, and then in the combine wise, and in interviews. There's really four steps that you should take to drafting a guy. Each guy that you are interested in, and it's obviously the combine interviews, the film, and analytics. What are they telling you? Those four things. I think those are the four musts when it comes to drafting a guy. It's not just a quarterback, but any guy.
Mm.
So that's I think there should be multiple different ways to go into drafting a player. Those teams end up drafting these guys for the measurements and fall in love with them at the combine, end up making pretty big mistakes. So it's yeah. I hope the Broncos don't do that, and hope that they're learning. I don't think that they're going to do that again. We don't know what teams don't do that and do that, but it's just it's interesting when you look back on some of these drafts and you see that and like, oh, maybe this team fell in love with him because of his measurements.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, a guy who really measured
Yeah.
up down at the combine, Chop Robinson. Um, amazing, amazing athlete down there. Really was chopping it up. Also found I found it funny as I was watching the combine, listening to the commentary a little bit. Do you know how he got his name, Chop Robinson?
Uh-uh.
Full name Pork Chop Robinson, and that's because when he was born, uh, ladies out there, I'm sorry to even have to hear this.
Oh my.
He was born a whopping 14 pounds. 14
Wow.
pounds he came out. So he got the nickname Pork Chop at that point and was then shortened down to Chop Robinson. But Chop Robinson did amazing, amazing things and is quite an athlete. Really, if there's a guy that could raise his stock, he's one of those guys that could certainly
Oh
raise his
yeah.
stock with a combine performance. Um, Graham's coming in here and saying, "Remember when Al Davis he where he would always just draft the fastest players?" Yeah, absolutely, man. The Olympic uh, gold medal winners or at least Olympic athletes. He was big into that. I also remember, Graham, and you probably remember this as well, the Lions having top picks in the draft and year after year taking a wide receiver in the first round again and again and again and again. I think it was like 4 years in a row if I remember correctly. So um, you never know what these GMs, what these coaches, what's going through their heads. Maybe that's the best player available, and that's when you get a little bit too wrapped up, and maybe you need to start thinking about what your needs are at some point. But what I really need to do is come in here to the posse, give some thank yous, man, and then we'll get some final thoughts and get out of here, guys. Appreciate the fantastic show on a wild card Friday. So Michael's coming in here and saying great show tonight. Keith and Trevor, those big orange and blues hearts, those big clap it up K&K style. We like our cousins on the East Coast. Kenny does have a rapid fire question. What position at number 12 would you want and not want the Broncos to take at number 12? So what position would you want them to take at number 12? What position would you absolutely rule out? Is there anything that
Ooh,
stands
I
out, buddy?
I would absolutely rule out wide receiver at 12. I'll say
Okay.
that. Other than what I would
Mm,
want, and that's a tough question because you just don't know what's on the board.
yeah.
I probably maybe an edge rusher, I would say, and then that's crazy to say that because I said that like a show ago that I don't know why Denver would take another edge rusher when they're moving Drew Sanders over to edge rusher, but a guy like Dallas Turner, man, he just really is a guy that's got a lot of upside, and I really like, and I would probably not hesitate to bring him in if he fell in Denver's favor. And now it might be good if JJ McCarthy goes in the top 10 because that would mean Dallas Turner would probably fall to Denver
Mm,
at 12. So just something to keep an eye on. Also, Keith, I want to give a shout out to Graham because we got a name right on our tight ends list that made the Broncos interview list. Ben
yeah.
Sanaa made the yeah, Ben Sanaa.
Right on.
Yeah, and had quote unquote extensive talks with the Broncos. So
Nice.
heck of a pick, Keith. Great job picking that guy.
You too, buddy.
Big on that guy, and thank you, Graham, for the shout out on Twitter because that's awesome. And that just shows that these lists really do. Sometimes they do come to fruition, and so we're continuing to work our butts off to continue to provide great content for you guys, and be on the lookout for those our defensive end and edge rush list because that will be coming out here soon as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Maybe we should. I'll put those together, and we'll put our lists up in more of a social media format and see what people think. I kind of did that with our first one. People really seemed to like that and jumped in on it as well. Um, I just have rapid fire question. There it is. So for me, I'll be honest, Kenny. If the value is there, we need to take our quarterback at 12. Simple as that. I don't know if we're going to be there again. So if the board falls to where the guy that Sean Payton loves, and I do say loves, is sitting there at 12, you absolutely need to get our quarterback there at 12. You just have to. I think there's going to be a better quarterback class, and if for some odd reason the stars align and quarterback is there, we're in so desperate need of figuring that position out. We don't need another name on a list, though. We need the right guy, and let's not make any choices that get crossed off here in the near future. Let's put it that way. Um, Besides kicker or punter, what position do I not want them to take? Um, Boy, probably like I would have to say, even though it's a position of need in my opinion, I think it's going to be, especially once we get through this free agency period. Middle linebacker just way too soon, and I don't see the talent level here at the top of the draft for a middle linebacker to be taken at number 12. It's got to be, unfortunately for us, at least right now, a day 3 pick, maybe a day 2 pick, but a day 3 pick if we're going to try help fill that void in free agency. So that'd be my pick in a rapid fire type of style. And rapid fire right here. Let's go ahead and get some final thoughts from Mr. Trevor Salzman. I'll give you mine, and then we're going to get out of here, guys.
Yeah, so again, thanks you everybody who joined our show tonight. Again, you guys were great in the comment section, and once again, thank you for sticking with us. We again apologize for our list. We'll get that out there to you guys, and you guys can react to them even if that's on social media. We'll post it on Denver Bronco Roundup Facebook page and Rocky Mountain Sports Network. So keep an eye on that, and then you guys can react to that and maybe come up with your own list. And please feel free to share them with us because we would love to hear you guys' ideas. That's just your guys' you guys, we want to love to hear your guys' ideas throughout every show that we do. So continue to put the ideas out there. And again, thank you to everybody tonight. You guys were absolutely amazing. Continue to show us support, like, share, subscribe over to our YouTube page. That really means a lot to us. And we're going to have a lot more great content coming out as free agency comes. And next week's going to be a big week, I think, for us as well. So we'll get a chance to dive deep into some actual news coming out, not just rumors, but
Mm,
I think actual news coming out. Uh, per Mike Kalis's report. So I think be prepared, guys. Put your seatbelt on because it's going to be a bumpy ride, guys. Because next week it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty aggressive, and the Broncos will be aggressive to get underneath the cap. And then after that, the following week it'll be we'll be coming up on free agency, and they'll get a couple needs there as well. Watch out for the Broncos to address the defensive line in free agency.
mm.
Probably more tier two free agent on the defensive line, maybe a couple tier two guys on the defensive line, but I think they'll definitely fill some holes in free agency as well. But again, thank you guys for everything, and we appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back stronger, better than ever on Tuesday. Go Broncos.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Most exciting time of the year, man. It's like it feels like Christmas sometimes. I will say, no Chicken Littles next week. No Chicken Littles. The sky is not falling. We'll have to go through some cuts. Things will look ugly. Jarrett Stidham will be the only real quarterback on our roster for a little bit here. Don't panic, Broncos country. There'll be free agency. I expect us to go the route of kind of like what Houston did last year. They picked up a lot of one-year contracts, cheap contracts, load your roster up. Now they were able to put that all together in a little magic recipe and get a lot of success out of it as well. But I expect that to kind of be the same recipe for success. Tier 2, tier 3, cheap contract, 1-year contract type of positions for the Broncos going forward. But we won't see that right away. So again, don't panic. It'll be okay. But we're going to probably start seeing some news next week. We're going to get you all covered over here on the Denver Bronco Roundup. Of course, part of Rocky Mountain Sports Network, the Denver Bronco Roundup, covering all of your Denver Broncos news, rumors, opinions, thoughts. We got ours. You got yours. They're all here right on the Denver Bronco Roundup. Of course, brought to you by Rocky Mountain Sports Network, who covers all your Colorado sports needs. So whether it be Broncos, Rockies, Nuggets, or Avalanche, they've got you all covered. Check them out at RockyMountainSN.com. Check them out on YouTube. It's probably how you're getting to our show as we speak. We appreciate the like, share, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell for the notification as well. Don't forget about checking out our wonderful sponsor, who has the most beautiful Southwest pottery and jewelry, as well as estate gold at wholesale prices. That's Morgan Trinkets, guys. Morgan Trinkets, the official sponsor of the Denver Bronco Roundup. Kenny's coming in here and saying, like you said, guys, got a big one planned. Draft show will be epic. We're going to make it the best show out there. And we're already been talking about all those plans. So, excited. And like Pearl said, fun. It should be a ton of fun. So Graham's saying bye to Russ. We're going to say goodbye to you guys. So in typical DBR fashion, guys, make sure you keep your feet in your stirrups, guns in your holsters, and the Broncos in your heart. Until next time, guys, Denver Bronco Roundup every Friday and every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's when you'll catch us on Tuesday, guys. See you then. Talk to you later. Have a good night.